All right. This is about, I believe, the fourth time I've had both of these gentlemen on the podcast. And doesn't matter, first, second, third, or in this case, fourth. Always excited to talk to these two gentlemen. And they got a new film coming out, and here on April 25th, The Diamond King. I'm joined by director Marq Evans. And the subject of that film, the hobby icon, as I like to call him, along with a few others, but definitely earns that title, Mr. Dick Perez. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hey, John. Thanks for having us. Good to see you.
So, I like I said, April 25th. This has been a kind of a 2 to 3 year process. I had you on the show 2 years ago. I know, Mark, for you, the idea started about 3 years ago, and now, I know on a previous show I mentioned it's kind of like your baby, and then it gets born, and then it grows, and here we are, right, 3 years later, and you've had some premieres like showings but the final cut version. Premiere is April 25th. Kind of talk about this process for you as a filmmaker over this 3 year that it's been a thing.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's been the most enjoyable process of any film that I've made. Um, and most of that is just working with Dick, number one. Just love the guy, so that's been super enjoyable. And then the subject matter of baseball, my favorite sport, and the paintings, we're being able to work with, tell the story, his story, and the story of baseball through his work, which I've been such a fan of. So, process wise, which, ultimately is the only thing we can really control, is having fun with the process. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been fun sharing the sneak peeks of the film, which we started last summer at the National in Cleveland, at Sabre in Minneapolis. We screened it at the theater in Cooperstown at the Hall of Fame, at the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, and then the official world premiere, because those were kind of these sneak peeks, was in Palm Springs in January at the film festival there. And so every step of the way, it's been awesome sharing it with people and sharing Dick's story. And now, like you said, April 25th, it'll be available for anybody, anywhere to watch online, at home. So we're very excited for that, and having, anybody that wants to see it. You don't have to be at a certain, city or location to see it now. So that's exciting.
Dick, your journey in this process too, as being sort of the subject of a film. I don't imagine you really thought this would be something that would happen, and yet here you are with the final premiere here, April 25th. Your kind of thoughts as being the subject of. I mean, you've watched movies before, but to be the subject of one, like kind of the like, what's that like? What has this process been like for you?
Well, during the creating of the Diamond Kings, I never really got any backflow of emails or letters or what have you. And I thought I was just doing it out there. And I knew that the company was having a great time with it regarding sales. But the people that I was aiming the the art and my project to was somebody who I would think would say nice work. But it turns out that they were most of them were young, and it took them growing up. Mark is one of those guys, and it took them growing up. And I get I don't know how many thousands of requests for autographs I get a month, but it's just the dream.
Has that in? I'm guessing the answer is yes, but has that number increased since this film has kind of launched? Is more people maybe aware of the man behind the genius artwork? Would that be the case? It's probably a safe bet.
Are you asking?
Yeah, like are you getting more of those
Oh, we
requests because of the
I'm
film? And
getting letters that say I loved your work when I was a kid. I am now collecting with my kid, whether it be a girl or a boy, and we're sharing your work with, I'm sharing my, the work with them. Letters like that. I mean, I've had letters from a guy's sadness. His son was terminal, and he was spending a lot of time with him with my work.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of, and then he sent me a picture of his son and told me when he had passed. And but there were some very personal things that I've got. I got one from a guy in prison who had served 28 years and had 68 to go, and I had to say that's got to be murder. It's got to be.
Yeah.
The guy's in there for a long time, and he was honest and told me why he wanted me to sign a bunch of stuff he sent me, so he can sell and get cigarettes.
Well,
So
at least he was a straight shooter there,
yeah,
and he
exactly.
didn't make up kind of a baloney story just to get
No,
some Dick
exactly.
Perez audios. Well, I said this previously. I've said this on the show without you guys present, right? Like for me, I'm a Brooklyn kid. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and so Tops was everything from an early age. And it was your Diamond Kings, Dick, that would really, the first couple years of Donruss and even Fleer were no great shakes to be blunt honest, and so didn't sway me too much from Tops. But it was that first Diamond King I saw that I'm like, what's this? This is so different, and it doesn't have Tops on it. Doesn't have those 5 letters that I'm overly familiar with, and the rest is history. And I think for a lot of people, they probably from that era that they have similar stories. And while the cards themselves are all works of art when it comes to photography, this was art, pure art, and really turned my head, and obviously many others. And that's a credit to you. And it makes you wonder, like you can't rewrite history, but maybe had that not been the case, maybe how would the hobby be even a little bit different, or maybe would it took longer for that brand to make its presence known. Going back to Mark, you've done films before, you've won awards for prior films. In comparison, how was this film different for you as a filmmaker?
Yeah, it was different for me in several ways, and a lot of those ways I intended from the beginning to do. Which one of them was I wanted to find a movie that I could do within a couple years. My previous couple films had been like 5-year projects, and I also wanted to find a film that I thought I could do that I'd really enjoy the process and not need like for lack of better terms, like the Hollywood system. I wouldn't have to wait on other production companies or a lot of outside organizations to finance it or something like that. So when I thought of this idea and realized that I could make this, that I was interested in the subject of Dick Perez and the story of his story and the story of baseball through his work. Um, I originally thought maybe I'll just interview Dick. He'll be the only interview subject. I've got a couple favorite documentary filmmakers, and they've made films like that before, because that's one way you can keep the cost down because you're not traveling all over the world or all over the country interviewing people. Ultimately, I did do some other interviews. I think there's 5 other interview subjects, including Dick's wife Lou, because I was inspired by their love story, really. So she's interviewed John Thorne, the official historian of Major League Baseball, is interviewed Bob Kendrick, the president of the Negro League Baseball Museum, Peggy Steele, who was along with Frank Steele, partners in the Perez Steele business, and Bill Madden as well too, Hall of Fame sports writer. Am I missing anybody? I think those were our interviews. So it ended up with just, but still just a handful of interviews. And so that just being a little bit more strict with that, I enjoyed that process, and it just kind of made it a little bit tighter. There's not so many voices in the film where you can't keep track of who the interview subjects are. And then the other thing that we were able to put together in this was an idea that I had for other films, but it never really made sense. Which was to have an on-camera narrator that kind of tied some of the story together, but also in this case was like the voice of baseball. And so what I wanted that to be was a chance for some written material to be done about baseball, but really as an opportunity to show off more of Dick's work. So whenever this narrator's on camera, we have these massive screens that we built that are projecting images of Dick's work. So you see all kinds of Dick's work throughout the film through his story, but then in these on-camera narration components, again, it's an excuse to show more of his work and tell more stories about baseball that ultimately tie in with Dick stories as well too. So we had John Ortiz, great actor. You might have seen him recently in the Apple TV show Bad Monkey or The Madness, which is a Netflix show right now. We were fortunate to get him to do the on-camera narration, and it was written by Joe Posnanski. Just probably the best sports writer working today, author of Baseball 100 and Why We Love Baseball. And so getting him to write that narration, working with him, and then having the narrator with John Ortiz, those were new things that I'd kind of wanted to do before, and it was pretty awesome to be able to do it in this film.
You mentioned travel, Mark, and I'm sure each film, you have to travel somewhat, whether it be to even a film festival for a screening and that sort of thing. Was this the most you've traveled for a film that you were involved with, or no?
No, probably not, only because, again, only interviewing 5 different people. That said, Dick's across the country in Brooklyn. Peggy was in Philadelphia. John Thorne's in Catskill, New York. Bill Madden's somewhere in Florida. And Bob Kendrick in Kansas City. So in that regard, and there was a lot of trips back and forth. I'm in Seattle, I should say. So going all the way across the country. So a lot of visits with Dick over the course of a couple of years. Towards the end, he was kind of like, "Look, I'm excited to see you, but I thought we were done with this." Mileage wise, maybe, but as far as number of trips, probably less than in films past.
Dick, for you, was this, with this process with the film, did you do more traveling? Was it something you had to get accustomed to, or no?
Well, it depends on what traveling. If it was for leisure, I did a lot of that. And I think for any project, for sure. I mean, the screenings, really. I mean, that's which I thought delightful to, number one, get the reaction of the actual people that the movie was aimed at, and the question and answer period afterwards. I always loved those.
Yeah.
So it was all enjoyable, and then I got to meet the president of the Negro League not Hall of Fame, but Negro League Museum.
Yeah.
And really liked him because he said some nice things about my work. And he said exactly the way I felt when I was doing that work. So I just wanted to shake his hand and give him a hug.
Yeah, no doubt. That's Bob Kendrick, an alumnus of this podcast. He's been on. Dick, you've seen the hobby through the years, through your lens, through the general lens. Has kind of your thoughts as how, the hobby's obviously changed, so like everything in 40, 50, 60 years. Has this experience of doing the film with Mark changed how you view the hobby, or not necessarily?
Well, but the only thing that I see is that there is more art in baseball cards. I mean, Topps is really doing a good job with that. I started it with them when they contacted me after Don Russ, and I did some projects with them. But there were a lot of young artists who were called on, and therefore, what I had set out to achieve, I accomplished. And that was I just think that baseball imagery began with paintings, with drawings,
Yep.
Especially the color ones, and it's back. So anyway,
Yeah, no, it's true, because I've had 10 of the 20 Topps 2020 project artists on the podcast as interview guests, and I'd say 80% of them, when I asked them, and some of them weren't necessarily hobby people, full bore, but most of them, a high percentage of them, gave credit to you as an inspiration for what they did for the 2020 project. Did you, I know they came on the podcast and said that. Do you get that from artists that will reach out to you and say, "Thank you, Mr. Perez, for kind of being the pioneer, if you will, in this genre, and making it possible for us to be now involved." Do you get much kind of kudos and things? Not that you necessarily need them. Your work speaks for itself, but do you get that sometimes?
Yeah, especially during the trips that I took for the screenings and doing signing, there would be a couple of artists who are active now in doing sport art and thanked me. So
Yep,
yes,
yep, as they should. Mark, you collect with your son. It's part of the film. You show that. Has that changed? Has the process of making this film even changed how you collect with your own son?
Yeah, I would say we're just he's still into it, and so we just probably do it a little bit more because than we had prior. And then my own personal kind of tastes, I have started collecting a lot more Dick Perez stuff, just because I've just become so much more appreciative and a fan. Even the more as we've gone on. So, when I first started this, I didn't know anything about the Press Deal art postcards. I knew the Diamond Kings from when I collected, and which I still love, but I fell in love with the Press Deal art postcard series, and so I've started collecting autographed versions of those. And so that would be the biggest thing for me personally, is just trying to surround my office here with more of Dick's work.
There you go. Dick, you mentioned some of the Q&A and meeting some of the fans of your work, myself included in that. Does that surprise, like, not, maybe you're not surprised, but does the amount of people surprise you? Is it reinvigorating? Kind of talk about that effect on yourself when someone says to you, "Hey, you're the reason for this," or "You're you did this for me in the hobby. You changed the hobby for me," and kind of obviously it makes you feel good. I mean, that goes without saying. But even does that, I know you've slowed down a little bit as you've gotten older. Has that been sort of reinvigorating, or and are you getting more of that than you even anticipated? Like, I'm sure some of the impact, but has it surprised you?
yeah, I'm getting more of that than I anticipated, basically because of the making of the movie. I got to meet more of my followers, but I didn't really expect that there was a mass of people out there who collected and still have Diamond Kings, and are grown men and women, I hope, that collected cards too. But yeah, to answer your question, it's been overwhelming.
It's incredible, and you did a great job, Mark, with not only showing Dick the artist, but right, Dick the husband, and Dick the human, and just that human element, and you did such a fine job with that. Does that happen naturally, or is that something that you have to sort of try to do as a filmmaker, or a little of both, maybe?
Yeah, I'd say it's a little bit of both that, and you've got to know what kind of movie you're making, first of all. So, going into it with an idea and then being ready to explore and be surprised by things. There's a thread in the film covering Dick's relationship with his mom that I think is really, in many ways, the heart of the film. And that wasn't something that kind of we hadn't talked about that, and it was maybe midway through making the film where I just realized that maybe there was something there, and then I pursued that, and that ended up being an important part of the film. And then I think there's also, you know, documentary in many ways is autobiographical, even when, in this case, like I'm not, a subject of the film or anything like that, but we make as filmmakers the decisions for what interests us and what inspires us. And I think Dick is somebody that at least myself and many can aspire to have a life like his. From a creative standpoint, the decisions that he makes, the relationship with his wife. I hope to have that same with my wife. So those things kind of make their way into the film when I'm directing it, because that's what I'm attracted to and that's what I'm inspired by. So yeah, so I think, like, going in, there's the things that that are interesting to me, and I want those things to be in there. I would hope that finds a wider audience too, and other people can appreciate that. But there's an aspect of that is just selfish. It's what I want to explore.
And for you, Dick, you're the subject of the film. I mean, for many years, right? I mean, people knew who you were, but like you were more behind the scenes, let's say, doing the work, and then we see the finished product. Was it difficult with this film, like getting more personal and sort of letting that veil down to talk more about you as a person, a husband, a son, and everything else like that? Was it easy to do? You just never really had to do it before, or was it kind of guarded where you didn't want to give away all the secrets per se?
No, I think it was a natural feeling that I had about life and about how, I mean, I have figured out why I have succeeded as an illustrator, artist, painter, whatever, when many don't. And to me, the fortuity of my subject matter plays a big part in the popularity of my work. I mean, you had a subject that you had a person who may like to collect art, but then also likes to collect baseball player pictures, and that was something that I mean I didn't know right away, but figured it out when I'm talking to other artists and they're asking me or writing me about success. So to me, subject matter is important. I mean, you are in the painting when you choose a subject matter that you have a greater love for, and it's it's the way you do it and the way the enthusiasm with which you use to create new ways of looking at a portrait. All those things are inspired by the subject matter.
Yeah, no doubt. This question, my friend, when I told him I was going to be talking to you, Dick, who's a collector, he wanted me to ask you this. And after he told me the question, I thought it was kind of like, obviously you're uber talented. I'm sure no one gets you super thrown up, but is there a particular athlete or player that gives you difficulty in drawing and painting more over another one that sticks out,
Yeah,
or
just the good looking ones. You want to paint Yogi Berra all the time, or Hank Bauer, or what have you. I have problems with getting exact likenesses of men who, I mean, or women who have pretty perfect figures. I mean, noses and eyes and what have you. You want something that you can enjoy, copying and getting a laugh out of.
Yeah. That question came from someone who can't even draw a stick figure, by the way. So uh, there you go. Mark has in doing this film. Obviously you're not new to filmmaking, but maybe this is a new genre with the hobby. Is it something maybe you want to revisit at some point again, whether it be a biopic or just maybe a hobby film in general? We're starting to see a few more kind of be made and whatnot. But is that is that on your mind that maybe this is something you'll revisit?
I do remember at one point during the process of making this, and it was probably during baseball season. I was reading just baseball books, and everything was just baseball. And I thought maybe I'll just make a bunch of baseball movies because I just enjoy it. If anything, I could see additional baseball related subjects. Um, I don't know though. There's not like the perfect idea for a baseball related film right now, but I would certainly be interested in doing. I take that back. I've got one loose idea that's probably going to be 15 or 20 years away because it takes collecting stories throughout the history of baseball, and it takes reading hundreds and hundreds of books, of baseball books, in order to get to where I want that project to be. So that might be something, 2 decades from now. but just the subject of baseball is endlessly fascinating. Dick talks a lot about how it's the best, collectible sport because it goes back to the 1800s, and
Yep.
and I think that's very true. And so many of my favorite stories are just reading stories that of the early days of baseball are endlessly fascinating to me.
One of the other nice benefits of this film being made, obviously, other than the film itself, which is great, is we've got some more, Dick Perez artwork being done as part of support from the film. Some jumbo cards, some regular size cards, which I'm a proud owner of. Was talk about, and this goes for both of you, like, was that something early on you knew that would be, or did that kind of just the light bulb kind of just went off? And for Dick alone, like what was that process like? You've done obviously artwork before, but now is part of a movie release and that sort of thing.
You want me
I
to
don't know
answer that?
what's. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I think that the purpose of the projects that we did were to finance the film, help finance the film, because all those trips he was making to the East Coast and hotels and what have you. I mean, something's got to be done, and it gave me an opportunity to do. I I like right now I'm working on a very large painting of Scott Rowland, who is one of the new inductees to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and I've got a collection of paintings at the Citizens Bank Park, home of the Phillies. And I hadn't really painted anything baseball until that. I mean, aside from the film, I didn't have a project yet, and I think I almost finished it today. It's looks great.
Well, I mean, again, the work that is aligned with the film is as all your stuff has been great and terrific. For you, Mark, was that something you thought would be an idea, or it just kind of came along where you're like, hey, I'm doing this film. It's about Dick Perez. He's obviously a renowned artist. This sure just kind of makes sense. Like where did that come in the process?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. I knew I wanted. I thought it was important to see his process of starting and then eventually completing a painting in the movie. I just thought people would be interested in seeing what his process is, and I was interested in that. And so we decided on that, and you'll see that in the film on an Aaron Judge painting. And so he started an Aaron Judge painting, and he ends up scrapping that painting that he'd started because during the course of making that, Aaron Judge hit the record-breaking home run, number 62, a couple seasons ago. So he decided, well, I'd rather do that painting because that's historic. And so we see his process of starting one Aaron Judge painting, scrapping that, starting another one, and ultimately completing that. And so that was an early idea that we wanted, like, to see him painting, see him painting something that fit with the movie. And then I can't remember how the Diamond Immortals card set, which I think is just an awesome card set, 25 players from spanning the history of baseball through Dick's work. I think it might have been Dick's idea when we were doing the Kickstarter. What about a new card set? And originally I think it was going to be existing art that he had, but then we thought, well, we'd like Ohtani to be in this set, so we painted a new Ohtani. He wanted Tom Seaver to be in there, but he maybe wasn't happy enough with the one, previous one that he was going to use. So he paints a new Tom Seaver, and then he paints a new Babe Ruth, and then he paints Julio Rodriguez, and then he paints a new Roberto Clemente. And so that's just Dick, that's just the prolific artist that he is. And so that was awesome. It was awesome to be part of that, see those paintings, and And I think there's some of his best work. I think, I've told him this many times. I think he's doing some of his best work right now. He's got a new series that he's been making of Hollywood legends. So these people, for the most part, are a little bit more beautiful than some of the baseball players in the past. But he's doing a good job with those too. So and again, I think those are some of his best works. Of you're talking Hollywood, just like baseball from the beginning days of movies until now. It's what he's doing. So. Yeah, it's really awesome and inspiring to see him work as a creative person and to be able to learn from him.
Yeah, no doubt. I saw the film at the National in Cleveland. That rendition of obviously well done, and loved it. You know, it's a movie about Mr. Perez. It's a movie about his life sort of work and the person. But it's also the thing I took from it is and I don't want to give away the whole movie, but a lot of people, you came over from Puerto Rico as a young boy on a plane by yourself. I'm 52 and I'm scared to fly by myself, right? So you come as a young boy on the plane to New York, and you wanted to be a ball player yourself. That didn't work out, although I think Plan B was pretty good too. But the thing I took away that I said to myself for people watching it, right, is that follow your dreams, right? You can do whatever you want to do. Maybe not. I wanted to play Major League Baseball too, so Dick, don't feel bad. We're in the same boat there, but I can't paint, so that's why I talk. But I when the movie was over, I just said, and it affected me a little more emotionally than I actually anticipated. That caught me a little off guard. But I remember saying, the little voice that we all have in the head is that this, anyone that sees the film, whether you're regardless of age, right, it should show you that chase your dreams. Maybe you hear no sometimes, but keep pressing on, and things can happen. And while you're not a baseball player, you're involved with baseball in a big sort of way. um, and I think that's just a testament to both of you gentlemen, right? I think for Dick, the perseverance to do what you want to do, and for Mark, just making a great film that sort of illustrates that in itself, almost like a painting in film form. And so it might be a little bit of a baseball movie, it might be a little bit of a biopic, but I also think it's educational in that way, that chase your dreams. Don't take don't let the first no be the only no you necessarily hear, and keep going. You never know when that break might come that catapults whatever you're doing, and it doesn't even have to relate to being an artist. It can be whatever career that you're in. Uh, thoughts on that as a filmmaker and as a subject for both of you gentlemen.
Yeah, well, I think you're right on, John. I mean, obviously, I think baseball fans will love the movie. I think collectors should love the movie. But I hope it goes beyond that, and people are inspired by Dick's story. And that was really what I wanted to get across, is just to tell this inspiring story about learn about this artist and his life, and we can all learn from it. And I agree with you too, as far as just like sometimes you just got to stay in the game. You gotta and you can create your own luck. And Dick talks about like the luck of meeting certain people, but of course then when that opportunity was there, he completed every single painting on time and at a high level, and always did what he said he was going to do. So we all can use a little luck, and then you got to do great work once that once you have that.
Yeah, and I'm sure for you, Mark, as a filmmaker, right, when you were first starting out, like I'm sure you've got no's, and or we don't like this idea, and right, you had to press on, and it might be a little bit easier now because you have a track record and
Never gets easier, all the time. So all the time, seriously, like I
a
mean,
little bit, maybe a little bit easier, but
I teach film also at college
yeah,
here where I live, called Olympic College, and I have students that they like. I have to remind them sometimes, like, look, David Lynch, who just passed away, last month or the month before, he died not being able to get films made, and he's one of the most acclaimed filmmakers of his generation. And so it's a tough industry, and yeah, it gets a little bit easier. Doors open for you, but you just gotta, whatever you're doing, like you said, is just not give up on it, because there are opportunities that you can make for yourself.
Yeah, Dick, just kind of speak to, the takeaway of that. You should never really give up on your dream, and it's not always going to be easy. I think that was highlighted in the film, that there's tough times, and you got to like kind of keep plugging, and you maybe catch your breaks. So like Mark said, sometimes it might be a lucky break, but it doesn't matter, right? Sometimes that's what you need. Just well, for you, I mean, was that something you just in your genes, kind of like in your makeup? Talk about that for you personally.
Well, I think that I was very fortunate in that I was doing work, not painting, but doing work for the Phillies, for the Eagles, and art for the Baseball Hall of Fame. I took advantage of that. I worked my butt off, and and I think did some pretty good work. And one of the things that I that no one knows about, or is that my research for a human product of even a Yogi Berra. I want to see a new Yogi Berra painting. My research, and it's a lot of fun going through, especially now with computers, where you can just go into sites that have dozens and hundreds and thousands of images, and and I also don't like to necessarily, sometimes you have to do it, but you don't want to, I just don't want to copy a photo. I mean, I enhance it. If it's a black and white photo, it's in color. I do it in. I mean, so you do contribute something to it. But I like to create my own imagery, and I can take the head of Dick Allen and put him on the body of somebody else, or the background, change the background. I mean, you invent. You become very inventive, and I kept doing that all the time, so that what they saw, I want what you see, something you've never seen before, and that's the way I do it.
Yeah, it makes it original. You put your own personal spin on it, and much like sometimes we even see like with artists, right? We can tell the style and know who that particular artist might be, and that's sort of their signature, if you will. Well, gentlemen, this is, I mean, I've sort of been a small part for this for 2 years, but it's been, a great honor to have you guys on the show, to talk to you in person. And like I said, that's not lip service. Dick, that first Diamond King made me look at some another company other than Tops as a kid from Brooklyn, New York, and
That's great.
glad that it happened. Wouldn't change a thing about it. And I think, like I said earlier, I think a lot of people have similar stories. And if you would have told, that 11-year-old kid then that, hey, maybe 40 years from now you'll be talking to the gentleman that did this, and turned your head, I would have probably thought you were out of your mind. But here we are, and four times at that. And like I said, every each of these has been privilege and an honor and a thrill, and glad I get to do it. And so thank you. The film is great for those that haven't seen it yet and are going to. If you don't love it, I don't know what your problem is. I just say that it's because it checks, like I said in some of the questions. It's a baseball movie. It's a hobby movie. It's a personal movie, and it's an educational movie. It's a lot of things kind of wrapped up into one, and it's well done. And glad to be a very small part of it, but just the same. I'll give you guys kind of the final word here. April 25th. This has come out. This, you may be hearing this, and we're a week into it. Go out there and download it and watch the film, and that sort of thing. But I'll let you guys have sort of the last words here.
Dick, you want to start?
Well, I'm glad I met you.
Yeah, hey, me too. Me too. And
I'm always
well,
asked in my Q&As, I'm always asked, what did you think when somebody came up to you and tell you they want to make a movie about you? What am I going to say? I say, yeah, of course.
Well, let me ask you this one last question. Now that you're a movie star, have you thought about doing any kind of action films?
Yes. Yes.
one thing I found out is, Dick is a great lover of movies, and he's got this new project where he's painting Hollywood legends. But him and some friends go to a movie together almost every week, or maybe even every week, and have for a long time. Dick and I and our cinematographer Jason Rourke, we were on a shoot somewhere in Pennsylvania, and we went to Barbie together when it came out. So Dick is a big. It was just the three of us dudes.
Yeah.
And going to see Barbie. And so he's a film lover. And when I did call him that first time, he was very intrigued, but we just hit it off right away. And that's what made this process so enjoyable. Dick's somebody, I hope we're in each other's lives, forever. And I'm sure we will be, beyond just this film coming out. So that's been the most rewarding part. And then this film will last forever. His art's going to be, out there forever. And so will this film. So we're excited to share it with more people. Again, when you have these like sneak peek screenings, you've got to be there. But now available digitally, April 25th. I'm just excited for more people to learn about Dick and his story. We've got a pretty fun opening week planned too, where there's going to be kind of bonuses and giveaways for people that buy it and rent it. So anybody that rents it, that first week, they can send proof of purchase, so just like the receipt basically, to proof@thediamondkingmovie.com, and they'll automatically get a download link to JPEGs of all 405 Diamond Kings that Dick did. They're scans from his personal collection. So people will get that, and then people that buy the movie, which would be like $12.99, they'll get the Diamond Kings plus automatically entered to win all kinds of different rewards. I've got some Dick Perez prints here from the movie that I'm going to give away. We've got some of those jumbo card sets that are in a box that Dick autographed. Also comes with John Ortiz, our narrator. He autographed a card of his too. So free giveaways that people can enter into, in addition to getting the movie.
Yeah, no doubt. Dick, we'll let you have sort of fun this whole, just kind of your thoughts as the premiere comes out, and being a movie star now.
Yeah. I think one of the accomplishments for sure, but an important one was that the reason I got into that genre of painting sports was because I wanted to bring art back to sports. And this movie is proof of that it happened, and it was enjoyed by the many people. And not only that, it made a company successful that just joined the group of baseball. I mean, that to me, that my work, because that's what I hear all the time with these letters that I get, is that they switched to Donruss. Well, they bought Donruss also, in addition to double their spending money. And so I look at it as I achieved what I set out to do.
And I'll close with this too, guys. I think with maybe a young person that sees this movie who doesn't know who you are yet, Dick, they'll learn, right? And they'll learn not only that of your work and your impact on the hobby, but again, what I said is that, hey, perseverance pays off in the end. So this is just on different planes and on different levels. I think this movie's going to be great. It is great, but I think for people who haven't seen it yet, I think that impact is yet to come. We haven't even seen the impact, the true impact of the film. I think because there's a lot of younger kids in the hobby that will learn, about the greatness of Dick Perez and the greatness of the filmmaking of Marq Evans as well in the process of it. So that's going to be fun to see that, for years to come.
John, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Okay. See you again.